Next guest sees 16% upside for Nvidia from here, writing that demand for GPUs is insatiable. He upped his price target above the street average to 145 earlier this week. Joining me now is Will Stein, analyst at Truist. Will, what's the most important thing in this report?
Yeah, I think the numbers on the quarter and the guidance are always very important for initial reactions, but I actually think it's the longer-term commentary. Jensen's very good at framing longer-term opportunities for the company, and I actually think those things can tend to be more important for the stock's move over the subsequent few trading days.
You point out that there have been some reports about the latest chip perhaps not coming out as soon or in as great a volume as some had hoped, but there's still really high demand, such high demand for NVIDIA's product in general. People will take a generation old, 2 generations old even. So how much does the, I guess, the availability of Blackwells matter at all? And then just how much does it matter to sentiment if we get some color from NVIDIA that says, actually, we feel fine about this, or, you know, actually, we've got enough, a stock of chips that people want that it's not something that you need to worry about?
I don't think this is a major worry heading into the quarter's results. I've contacted my industry contacts. My channel checks reveal no delay. So I don't know of any customer that's been told that they will have a delayed delivery. I know several customers that have product on order. I don't know any that have confirmed that the company has told them that there will be a delay. So I can't say with certainty that there's no delay, but I haven't found evidence of it. So I don't think it's likely that it's delayed. Now, if it is, does it matter? Not very much, in my opinion. And the reason is that customers' demand for GPUs from NVIDIA are insatiable now. They'll take H200. They'll even take H100. They'll take whatever NVIDIA can deliver them right now. And that's a major dynamic that's affecting the broader group of companies that address this AI need, not just NVIDIA, but there's a few others that have a similar dynamic.
Across the other stocks you cover, which do you expect to be most affected by what NVIDIA reports?
Yeah, so there's a few. One is certainly AMD. They're sort of the up-and-comer in this space. They have similar products to NVIDIA, but they don't have the same ecosystem. Another one is Broadcom. We have a buy rating on that stock. That company assists web-scale companies develop their own specialized AI chips. And then there are a couple of other off-the-run reads like Tesla, which is trying to build an AI training cloud service called Dojo. That's still in the process of getting worked out. And then a more off-the-run one is a company called Monolithic Power, ticker MPWR. That company is a power management company, and these chips are needed as complementary devices to all of these AI vendors' chips.
How much volatility do you expect in NVIDIA stock action, not just when the numbers come out, but perhaps even throughout the call, even in the first day or so after earnings? I recall last couple of our earnings reports, stock wobbled after the initial numbers came out, but when Jensen got on the call, talked about the quarter, it then recovered quite nicely.
And I anticipate a sort of similar reaction. I can't so much nail down exactly what the move is going to be on the print. My understanding from reading other reports suggests that options are pricing in something on the order of a 10% move on the result, which is similar from what we've seen in the last several quarters. That sort of move wouldn't shock me in either direction. But when Jensen starts talking about these longer-term growth drivers that I think are very well intact, and NVIDIA's position in the market, which I think is also well intact as the #1 supplier, I think the stock will continue to do well.
NVIDIA right now is neck and neck with Microsoft in the market cap race, to the extent that there is a market cap race. But Apple has pulled ahead. It's been pretty much all year a story of these three horses kind of trading places. To what degree should investors get used to NVIDIA being one of the most valuable companies, public companies in the market?
Yeah, we've actually written quite a lot about this. We expect NVIDIA to be at or near the top for some time. And when you think about technologies that are being developed and how over the long term, these new and exciting things, even if you go through a period of disillusionment, that longer term they wind up becoming a major part of our lives. The internet comes to mind as a similar example. Longer term, companies that have a meaningful, let's say, top position in such a market wind up having a very strong position longer term, and we think Nvidia is like that. We'd expect them to be very large and among the stock market's most important stocks for some time to come.
All right. And we'll see how that story continues after today's earnings. Will Stein from Truist, thanks for joining me.